Very bad group stage then for La Liga sides. Atleti out, Sevilla out, and Barcelona out as well. We kind of knew this was going to happen, despite Gab blabbering on yesterday that Inter were going to drop the ball and it was all going to go wrong. Inter got it done. 4-0 against Viktoria Pilsen, so it didn't matter what Barca did against Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich winning by 3-0. So given that, Craig, given that Barcelona knew exactly what had happened going into the clash at the Camp Nou, can you be too harsh on them in their performance against Bayern? Because
yes. Well, I tell you why. They're trying to save face.
Yeah, but how are you going to save face? It doesn't matter, does it? You're going to beat Bayern. Doesn't it make any difference, does it?
You're trying to save face. You were embarrassed in the Clásico. You're under a bit of pressure. You got some injuries, I grant that, at the back. But that's not a real excuse, because you did sign Bellerin and you did sign Alonso. Strange, but you did. And you're now looking at making a mark. You're now looking at, you've got a big crowd there. Yes, the result went as we thought in the San Siro, but you still got to go out there, perform, show that you're on the front foot and save face, and show that you can reverse a result from early on in the group, where you played okay actually in the first half, but Lewandowski missed some chances in Munich. Let's go out there and put a positive result.
I don't know.
Well, I'm telling you now, right?
I know,
as a player, you want to go out, you don't want to be... As a player, you go out, you don't want to get embarrassed. And trust me, some of the stuff they did, particularly early on, was embarrassing. Bayern Munich won this game and never, ever, ever got out of second gear. Never got out of second gear. And I said to you at the weekend, Barcelona are okay until teams attack them. And we talked at the start of the season, all these attacking players, all these signings, was it going to be enough to mask their Achilles heel? And we have a clear answer. We have a clear answer. You know, the Clásico and the Champions League, where the real big tests are. And I know there was no Arujo, and I know there was no Christensen, but they were found wanting. Found absolutely wanting.
They really were, Ali, and Bayern didn't really have to do much to win this game.
No, so when you think about what the mindset would be for Barcelona coming into this match, knowing full well that they were out, I understand that there is nothing in play. I obviously, them knowing that they're not going to advance in the competition, sure, nothing to gain. But there's also nothing to lose. And you're also playing at home against Bayern Munich, 85,000 people who, despite the fact that you've already been eliminated of the competition, they packed that stadium and they were ready to support you. And then you simply laid an egg. A flat performance. Yet another flat performance when they're playing against elite competition. So to your point, Dan, regarding what Bayern Munich needed to do, or basically what they didn't need to do in order to beat Barcelona today, for the first couple of goals, for the first one, they complete one pass. So, high line, no pressure on the ball, they complete one pass, Sadio Mane gets in behind Bellerin, he scores 1-0. Maybe there's going to be a response from Barcelona. Yeah, good luck with that. Second goal, two passes, Bayern Munich. It's not like they were dominating the possession and then they were creating opportunities just because of how good they were with the ball, Bayern Munich. No. They forced a turnover, two passes, they're in behind, they're scoring a goal, 2-0. And after that, it was game, set, match. And while we think of Barcelona as an attacking team, what did they create today? What opportunities did Ulreich have to come up with a save? None. None of it. So you have issues defending that Craig just mentioned, and then you have issues in creativity in the attack, actually creating opportunities. And to the point that Craig was making, Bayern Munich today was almost a training session sort of pace with which they play, which then displaced what I think is the most concerning issue for Barcelona, that they're nowhere near the elite level in Europe. Nowhere near. Not advancing is one thing, but the fact that they're nowhere near competing with teams like Bayern Munich, I think is even worse. And I think in a bigger picture we have to ask, has there been improvement? Because the players have changed, right? The manager has changed, and we go back to what it was, Champions League last year. You know how many points they got in the Champions League group stage? 7 points. How many do they have this year? 4 points. If they beat Viktoria Pilsen, 7 points. So where is the palpable improvement? Where is something that you can tangibly say, this team is better now than what they were then? The results against elite competition would suggest they're not anywhere near better than what they need to be.
But they signed one of the world's best strikers. They signed one of the best wide players in Europe, if not the world in Rafinha, who others wanted. They signed Kessie from AC Milan, who's a terrific player, but has had limited game time. I know he played today. They signed Jules Koundé, amongst others, who was vaunted by a lot of clubs, Chelsea included. So they have signed, on the face of it, some quality players. Now I throw in Alonso and Bellerin at the bottom, who played with the kind of squad players, but they beefed up that squad pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, you're saying today or tonight, who cares? And they've seen the result. I'll tell you who cares. Xavi cares, because he's a man under pressure. He is a man under pressure. And I'm not suggesting he's going to get the sack or anything, but the bigger teams that they play and the more elite competitions they play and the more defeats and bad results they get, the more questions. And that's what we said at the start of the season. You sign the players, it asks the question. And so far, he's not had the answers.
Go on, Frank.
I think if we consider, I go back to your question, Dan, when you started the subject of Barcelona. If you consider that Barcelona can be, disappointed because they already know the result about Inter, what about the Germans? The Germans were already qualified. Therefore, why they played that way and why they were so superior to Barcelona. It's a frame of mind where you have to be. And as the guy said, and Ali especially, you play in front of the full crowd, you have to produce and do better. I really think we got carried away by the fact that Barcelona played a little bit better at the end of the season, that they signed some players, and we needed something better from them because we need a Clásico, we need something strong in La Liga. And so we thought that Barcelona were back to where they were, where they are still very far away from who they were and how they were producing their games and their results. I remember, and I play against Barcelona, when Barcelona were signing players, we are talking about Samuel Eto'o, we are talking about Thierry Henry, Rivaldo, big worldwide players. They signed good players, as Craig mentioned, but they're not worldwide players.
Oh, Lewandowski's a worldwide player, Frank, isn't he? I think that's fair. Lewandowski's a proper player. He's a worldwide player.
Yeah, but that's the same thing. Yeah, he is, but it's the same thing. A striker needs to be served. So if you have Haaland and Manchester City and you have Gundogan, Silva, Cancelo, De Bruyne, who can serve him, yeah, you can score goals. Give the same players and put Lewandowski up front, he will score many goals. That's not the case for Barcelona. I saw it today. I saw Dembele fighting with Davies, and it was very interesting to see. But when he was taking on Davies, he was making stupid passes or silly passes and easy ones, and he couldn't do it. So it's different. It's different class, different level. Barcelona is not the Barcelona we used to know. That's for sure.
So where are we off the pitch, Gab? For example, January, they can't spend any money. Next summer, are they going to be able to spend money once again? Or how much have they put themselves in a hole, gambling on a good run this campaign and getting knocked out so early in the Champions League?
I'm tempted to make a joke and say he'll just find more levers to pull, but I think this is so bad that I don't even want to do that. So the reality is, reportedly, they had budgeted for quarterfinals of the Champions League. How much money they're going to lose? I tweeted this out. I tweeted out the whole regulations. If somebody wants to go and look at them, it's really difficult
Craig,
at this stage to know how much it's going to be, but it's going to be between 30 and 50 million, something like that. That's going to be the shortfall. It's also going to depend how they do in the Europa League and how Real Madrid do in the Champions League, because it's dependent on other teams in the same market. I don't know you get out of this just by signing players in January. I think the obvious thing is you do have some saleable assets, players that you can move on should you need to. Obviously, they're not going to want to sell a Pedri or a Xavi, so they think they're going to do everything they can to avoid doing that. Worst comes to worse, there probably are some other assets that they can sell to private equity groups longer term, but you are creating a big house of cards. And I just think when, listening to the guys describe all the deficiencies of this team and Bellerin and Alonso and Dembele doing stupid things. You know, like you've had Dembele there for what, 4 years? You saw him up close. You know that as talented as he is, his decision making is terrible. And if he has a bad game, he really, really hurts you. You know that Ansu Fati's pretty darn good, and you're generally much better when he's on the pitch, and yet he doesn't get on the pitch. Kessie is another one that they signed and played today. Obviously, has limited playing time. I'd love to know the real thought process, and all those people that were like, oh, Matteo Alemany and so on, he's so smart. But my fear is that there's one person who's going to get all the blame for this, and that's Xavi. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think this is a well put together team, and you can't pin everything on Xavi.
And apparently, and I was talking to you about this, that some of the fans, quite a lot, were chanting about UEFA today during the game.
Yes.
It's almost like a blame culture. I'm presuming that's something to do with the call in the San Siro.
Yes.
In the Inter game away, where everybody's against them, it seems in their eyes. It's almost like the Atletico sort of scenario and mind process where they've got themselves into, where it's not going well. And by the way, it wasn't. Did they even have a shot on target in today's game?
No shots on target.
I don't think they did. I think that tells a story. They might have did if the Lewandowski penalty had stood, but it was rightly called away because De Ligt played the ball. They might have got a shot on target, if they did a penalty. But they seem to be shouting about everybody else. And to go back to just briefly on Gab's point about Xavi, there is some questions there, I suppose, and it's not all his fault. But we've talked about this. Ansu Fati's a head scratcher.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think many of us are Eric Garcia's biggest fans. And I know there's La Liga games coming up, and I know they're out. But if you want a result, even if you're not Eric Garcia's biggest fan, is Marcos Alonso really a better left-sided centre-back? You know what I mean? Is maybe poor decision maker as Garcia can be at times. You're going up against Bayern Munich, who are going to cause you problems from wide areas and up front and midfield. And you're playing a guy in there that's been renowned for years as a wing-back at Chelsea is not the best defensively. It's a bit of a head-scratcher in terms of team selection.
Ali, if they win La Liga, is all forgiven?
If they win La Liga, I suppose you forgive a lot of it. I don't know that all of it is forgiven, but winning La Liga will certainly go a long way. I would go as far as to say winning Europa League would go a long way in softening the blow, if you will. But remember, and this is just adding to the conversation of what we think of Xavi and the pressure that may be on Xavi. If you go back to Europa League last year, and when we're shifting blame, remember that the blame was shifted to the fact that there were too many German fans at the Camp Nou. that was the reason as to why Barcelona lost. Let's not forget that conversation. And so while Barcelona and Barcelona fans want to point the finger at UEFA or too many German fans or this guy or that guy, we didn't get the call, the truth is, on the whole, Xavi and his teams, the teams that he picks, the teams that he puts out on the field, have not been good enough to get results in important games, in season-defining games, in moments in which you either go right or you go left. And in the case of Xavi and this version of Barcelona, they haven't gotten enough of those results. Take out the 4-0 win against Real Madrid in El Clásico late last year. Other than that, tell me a game that was critically important for Barcelona, this version of Barcelona, and this coach that they have won. They lost against Eintracht Frankfurt at home. Yeah, they did not get the results they needed against Inter, both away from home and at home. They lost El Clásico in between. They lost to Bayern Munich away from home. And today they got destroyed by Bayern Munich. So the evidence is there. It's not a matter of opinion. You just have to look at the games that they have played that are really critically important games for this club. How many of those results have been positive ones? And the answer is not many.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.